All right, I wanted to share something with you today. So, many of you have heard of this before, but it's concerning this cuneiform tablet which Chief Joseph had. And it was dated back by an Assyriologist. And it's really what it's saying is that it's just a receipt. In fact, what it actually says is it dates back to 2042 BC in Assyria, written in cuneiform, and it says Nalu received one lamb from Abashaga on the 11th day of the month of the festival of On, in the year of Enmahagalana was installed as high priestess of Nana. All right, so this has already been shown to not be a fabrication because this was turned over far before translations of these things were even known. But I wanted to show you something. So many of you know that I am a proponent of a timeline for Abraham being at about 1750 to 1720 BC. And that's because of the synchronisms with his father Terah with the ruler Teru of Urkesh in Mesopotamia, which is noted in Mari tablets at about 1750 BC. So these guys' lives are direct parallels with each other. It's really fascinating. But here's the thing: is when is this? Do we know when it is? I actually had been speculating about when the time of Nimrod would have been, and I had this thought that it would have been during the life and reign of Shulgi, King Shulgi. Because the thing is King Shulgi had acquired great dominance and power. He ruled during the third dynasty of Ur for a very long time. He was known as a great warrior, the ruler of the four directions. He set up a huge bureaucracy and solidified law where everyone was becoming of one voice. And there was even the completion of a ziggurat during his time, a great ziggurat. And so to me, I was thinking, okay, this might be the guy. But are there synchronisms? Like, what kind of synchronisms can we find here? But then I was looking at the article about Chief Joseph and that Mesopotamian cuneiform tablet that he carried with him. Right, so the history behind the cuneiform script tablet comes from Chief Joseph. So in 1877, the respected leader of the Nez Perce tribe surrendered to the U.S. government. At his surrender, Chief Thunder Rolling Down the Mountain, also known by his Christian name Joseph, presented General Nelson Appleton Miles with the pendant of a 1-inch square clay tablet with writing unrecognizable to General Miles. The writing, which was translated by Dr. Robert D. Biggs, a Syriology professor at the University of Chicago, turned out to be a sales receipt dating back to 2042 BC. In Assyria, it read, quote, Nalu received one lamb from Abashaga on the 11th day of the month of the festival of On. In the year, Anmahagalana was installed as high priestess of Nana, close quote. Well, I tried looking for who this was, and it happened to fall in that very time area that I was looking for Nimrod, because what it says down here is just ridiculous. The time frame it gives. This is from the Book of Mormon Evidences.org. I think their timeline from Adam down to Moses is complete. It's wrong. But that's my opinion based off of the many things which I've found and having spoken with experts myself. So Let me show you the date I think the Tower of Babel was, because here it says Tower of Babel destroyed in 1780 BC, and that's just not right. Cuneiform tablet dates back to 2042 BC. How would the cuneiform tablet of a sales receipt be carried for nearly 300 years just to wind up there? It makes no sense. No, this is the Tower of Babel was before Abraham. It was after Peleg. So it's right in between here. In fact, where they have the Tower of Babel, that's likely where they should have Abraham being born. And that's 1780 BC. So let's go to what I found. I was looking at Amar Suan. This guy is actually the son of the guy who I thought was Nimrod, which would be Shogi. So there's two sets of dating going on here, and one is a middle chronology, which says that Shogi reigned from 2094 BC to 2046 BC. Then there's the short chronology, which goes from 2030 BC to 1982 BC. From everything I've gone through and researched, I tend to lean more towards this middle chronology. And his son is Amar Sin. And if you go down here, you look for the different names of Amar Sin. So these are the different years he reigned. And they have different names which he gains. One of them was Anunu Galana, was installed as end priest of Ennata in Uruk. I thought, okay, so that sounds kind of similar. It's not exactly the same. And it also says priest instead of priestess. So I thought, okay, that's probably a dead end. But then I kept searching, and I found all these different names. And it says right here, in this year, under 4C, it says, quote, Enmagalana was chosen by means of the omens as an end priestess of Nana. I thought, okay, is that the same? End priestess of Nana. Let's go back up here. And what did this one say? In the year, which of Enmagalana, same name, was installed as high priestess of Nana. Nana, their moon deity. And it's funny because this is happening during the festival of On. On is also recognized as a Asher, their god Asher. Or, sorry, Asur. Anyways, we found our Nimrod. So, there we go. Nimrod. It had to have happened after this point, because this is where they're buying lambs, goats, because this wasn't the only Mesopotamian cuneiform tablet that was found. But the ones that are found seem to date around the time of 2042 BC, and there was another one, a lead tablet, very similar, but it mentions purchasing many goats and lambs, and that was for 2040 BC. So, now, this takes us back. Okay, so is this Nimrod? Why would this guy be Nimrod? Does Nimrod stand for the whole section of things which are happening at this time? Well, Shulgi was the mighty hunter, right? He was. It's after this period when we get the story of Gilgamesh, which is a combination of the story of Nimrod and the story of Noah kind of mashed into one. And it comes after this period, and here we see their giant empire, their huge empire just crumble into bits. They're all of one voice. And it's at this point Amorites come in and take over, and it's broken up, and people are scattered all over. And then it's just warfare continually. So we have to ask ourselves, are we understanding the story of the Tower of Babel correctly? Are we understanding the story of Nimrod correctly? Many rabbinic traditions share Nimrod as a good guy. Oh, yeah, he set up government. He was very efficient, did very good, he had everything running very good. But at the same time, we're told that, well, this was bad because he was trying to make himself mightier than God, right? Well, if he's establishing himself a mighty empire, and it's the Semitic groups, at least, that are taking from this and recognizing this, the significance of this. He's building a great tower, a great ziggurat, right? Which those were built from baked and heat hardened stones, just like it says in the story. Thing is, ziggurats had been built since about 4000 BC. This one specifically had a fully organized city states, everyone of the same mind. Everyone is getting in line. They're all part of the government. They're all politically correct, right? All that same language. And they're overcoming all challenges by controlling mankind. And then they start planting gardens among their ziggurats. And it's, you go to the king if you want to return to the garden, return to Eden, right? The king will provide for you. This is essentially the message being given and being understood by our biblical writers, in my opinion. But those, why even hold on to that tablet? Why hold on to a receipt? Because the receipt was often made by the buyer to help them remember, the patterns and dates, how long it's been, and how often they need to increase something. But I also wondered if, because these were lambs for sacrifice, so is this kind of like a temple recommend? And the reason I say that is because what I found in the Ojibwe language, where we look up Adam, and it means buy it from, right? Adam. Let's see what Adam, Adaman. Andaman. Road or trail comes from a certain place. It leads from there. So we have a purchase, a cost, a fall of Adam, a fall from grace, necessitating a buyback, a redemption. Here we're keeping these receipts for the lamb of sacrifice that they look to in the future, who will come as a redeemer. So is the receipt being kept kind of like a temple recommend? Because most of these cuneiform tablets, from what Dr. David A. Folk, biblical Egyptologist, told me, he said most of these lost tablets that are not, or tablets that have been found that are not translated, they don't bother translating because they're receipts. But they are receipts saying who they bought it from and who bought them. It has a name to it. Or President Holland told us that scriptures will someday come forth. There is actually so much more to this that has to do with everything. You can see how many windows I have open. I've been studying this for like 8 hours straight. So I just want to share a little bit of this with you. And if you're interested in this and learning more about who Nimrod is, learning more about the Jaredites coming over, learning more about how Native American cultures and North, South, Central American cultures also have imagery that would have been had in biblical scripture. If you want to know more about that, Let me know. I'm working on it. It takes a long time when I get that time. So thanks.